You're listening to Delayed Replay, the podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe for various reasons, but came out on time in our universe, and therefore come out pretty different for some reason. You might think this is improvised, and well, that's on you. I'm Steven Shinder, and welcome to the show. Airing sometimes every other week, sometimes one week and then the next week. It really depends. Just roll with it. Season 7.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Delayed Replay. New episode every other Saturday, unless I say otherwise or the frequency changes, which it kind of will, and I'll mention in a little bit. But introductions are in order. Returning guests, it is Kiyan and Dylan joining me to talk about the Cat in the Hat, the Warner Brothers animated film from like 2024 or whenever that came out for us. How's it going, guys?
It's going good. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Definitely going good. Definitely good to be back on DR. So thank you for inviting both of us again.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us back. I think Kian and I would like to make a joint statement that for this episode we'll actually be going by thing one and thing two.
I wasn't informed of this, but yeah, I'm for it. Why not? Which one am I?
You can be thing one.
All right. Okay. Just foisting responsibility on me. Is that how it is?
Hell yeah.
It's hard. I don't know. Yeah, we don't know. As this movie pointed out, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't
Right.
know anything, actually.
Yeah. And hey, you can't spell Dr. Seuss without delayed replay. Just throwing that out there, you know?
What? Hang
Like
on
if
a
you
minute.
abbreviate delayed replay as DR, that is.
God damn it. Huh, all right. Trust your delayed replay, I guess.
Hell yeah.
Mhm.
But to start things off, what's your guys' histories with any Dr. Seuss content?
Well, I'm a big fan of the doc, as you might say. Um,
Theo, I call him Theo. So,
Oh, you call him
kidding.
Theo?
I'm
He
kidding.
he he used Theo, he did use Theo
Oh,
as
really?
not all of his books were written with the Dr. Seuss pseudonym. Some of them were written as Theo Lesig, where you may notice Lesig is just his last name Geisel backwards. But anyway, um, I'm a big fan of the Doc. Used to love Cat in the Hat as a kid, read it like every day for like 2 years. Um, Big Cat in the Hat fan. Big cat fan, you might say. What about you, Keon?
Yeah, my experience with Dr. Seuss is probably pretty similar to that of other people my age or whatever. I grew up, reading the books out of the school library or whatever, a couple of them. Had more than a couple actually. I had a significant amount of them um, as a child. Um, and yeah, obviously, Cat in the Hat was one of them. It being his most famous, probably.
Well, that
Um,
a green eggs and ham, certainly, right?
yeah, yeah. Um, and it's like these are kids' books, right? So you don't like, growing up, you don't necessarily like continue to hold an attachment to them or anything. But yeah, certainly when I was a kid, I definitely read uh, many, if not most, of Dr. Seuss's works. Um, and growing up and whatever, saw the cartoon adaptations and stuff like that, like the Grinch, that one, and a couple others. So yeah.
Yeah, and the cat is probably like his most iconic character to the point where I remember being a little kid and when I saw that it said Dr. Seuss on the book, I thought that the cat was named Dr. Seuss. Um, yeah, and
Well,
we had like a couple of the VHS tapes of like the book read-alongs where it would show the illustrations and then it would read the text of it, but. Yeah, and yeah, I have like other like Doctor Who's consuming experiences. But it sounded like you were gonna say something else, Keon, before I
No,
cut you off.
I'm just gonna ask you. That's funny that you thought like Dr. Seuss was the cat or vice versa or something like that because like didn't they have like a little logo on the cover that was the cat was
Yeah, it
the
was
logo.
the cat from the Cat in the
Yeah,
Hat was
and
the
that would
logo.
yeah. I'm guessing on some of these covers that would probably appear next to his name, so that may have been like why you thought that. I don't know. Like yeah, God, that like that's unlocked not a memory, but just like I can envision those covers. Yeah, that's crazy. I haven't thought about that in so long.
Yeah, it's like Spider-Man on the Marvel comics, even the ones that he's not in.
Mhm.
They did that? Hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like at least back in the day.
I
Uh,
genuinely wouldn't know, so
So no memory unlocked for you. Yeah.
no.
but yeah, this the original book came out, The Cat in the Hat came out like March 12th, 1957. So we're like a year short of 70 years since it came out.
Dang.
And we're actually recording on the eve right before what would have been Dr. Seuss's birthday. So are you guys like doing anything for like Dr. Seuss Eve or whatever?
Yeah, celebrating Zack Snyder's birthday, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Duh.
yeah, I haven't prayed to Zack Snyder yet.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna
if so
do that.
that's why all our movies have been so bad for the last 6 months, is because Kiyan hasn't been praying to Zack Snyder. It all makes
Yeah,
sense now.
sorry about it. Just slips my mind, you know. It's just so easy.
No, but yeah, I've got the Cat in the Hat themed stockings hung up so that when I wake up in the morning, I'll see that they're filled with garbage to remind me that the gifts that we get for the holidays eventually become garbage. And it's really humbling. So,
Jeez, that's dark.
really nice holiday.
Very
And
lucky of you to have the Cat in the Hat visit you. He doesn't visit me anymore, probably because I told him to get the F out of my house the last time he showed up. I said, I know what you've done. I know all about Chile 1965.
Yeah. I mean, look, this movie did sort of peel back the curtain and reveal some of the cat's dark secrets that have,
It's
been
true.
kept under wraps for all these years, all these almost 70 years.
Yeah, it is kind of like a prequel to his adventures in that aspect. Shows the genesis of the
Right.
cat before he picked up the hat.
An expose almost. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Before he donned the hat.
right. Yeah, and th this might also unlock a memory, but I also remember back in elementary school, they'd also like serve green eggs and ham in the cafeteria. Did you guys ever experience this?
What?
Oh, was that just my school? Okay.
Uh, it definitely wasn't my school.
These green
Our
eggs and
school.
ham, perhaps. Yeah, we went to the same school. Did these green eggs and ham perhaps have sort of a furry texture? Was the green more of a turquoise or a teal
Y-
dotting the green eggs and ham?
Yeah, it might have been
Dotting the
more
eggs.
turquoise, but I remember the egg looking kind of like a sponge. It was kind of weird.
Mm, hmm. Yeah.
I also remember like the Cat in the Hat popsicles. Those were pretty cool, but looking back, like the concept of licking a face of a character you've seen
Oh,
is kind of weird
those.
when you really take a step back to think about it. And there's also like some Cat in the Hat puppet TV show in the 90s, and of course the we talked about a little bit about the animated stuff, but there are also the feature films that started coming out in 2000. We had How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which I thought had some sweet moments, but also had some really out of place adult humor. And then the live action Cat in the Hat dialed that up even more.
You mean the quintessential Mike Myers classic, The Cat in the Hat, 2003.
Yeah, this past week I wanted to do a little homework, do a little background research, and so I watched that movie. I think I might have watched it when I was a kid. I don't remember. If I did watch it, I have no memory of it. And yeah, it's quite an insane movie. Definitely one of the most chaotic movies I've ever seen. I actually like it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was definitely funnier than I was expecting. I wasn't sitting there like bored out of my wits or like wishing it would be over or anything. Surprisingly, like yeah, it's just like crazy, but it's like also I'm into it.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in the theater. I was like 9 years old,
Whoa.
and
Yeah,
it stuck with like I legitimately enjoyed it. I would like replay the scenarios in the movies in my head quite often afterward. I even got the DVD, which I think the DVD menu was one of the better ones that I saw from around that time, and the way the features were laid out, and it had those like that Dr. Seuss type of devices or whatever. Um,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, but I feel like if I watched it as an adult, I do kind of wonder like would I still think it's somewhat entertaining? Because I do like some of the humor doesn't hit me as much anymore, but I still kind of have a fondness for how chaotic it is and the set design and stuff. But yeah, a few years later, they started doing like 3D animated films. A Blue Sky did Horton Hears a Who, which I thought was pretty good. Then Illumination did The Lorax, and I think I think that even came out like on Dr. Seuss's birthday, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I remember that adaptation got a lot of flack. I thought it was fine. And then several years later, there was that Illumination Grinch movie, which I thought was fine. I'd probably rate the same as the live action one, but they each have their pros and cons. But yeah, have you guys seen either of those animated movies?
I've
No,
seen none of them.
actually.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen the Lorax. Sorry, I saw the Lorax, the animated Lorax. I didn't see the Grinch or How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I guess the animated one's just called The Grinch, huh?
Yeah, because it's a mouthful and people don't got time.
Yeah.
Right, right.
I never saw any of the animated ones, but it's my like interpretation and understanding that those are like just more faithful to the books. Granted, you do have to take some liberties with like a Dr. Seuss book because they're picture books. They don't necessarily lend themselves easily to movie adaptation. But like, in my limited knowledge of these sort of modern ones that they've been doing for a while, um, they're more faithful to the books than like the early 2000s live action ones. I don't know if that's correct, but that's just kind of what I think.
Well, it
I
really
mean, except this new
depends.
one.
Yeah, like it really depends on like what you're looking for. Because in the Lorax movie, it's been forever since I checked out the original story and the 2D animated thing, but I feel like the Lorax 3D animated movie expanded on the Onceler's backstory and sort of made him a bit more like a sympathetic character who had a downfall type of thing, and maybe that's why people weren't vibing with it as much. The 3D animated Grinch movie, the Who's at least look more like Who's, I think, but I don't know. I feel like that takes some liberties as well with, the stuff that they add in there. They actually make Cindy Lou Who kind of annoying in that one, whereas in the live action movie, she really does feel like the heart of the movie. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of up for debate. In the early or late 2010s, early 2020s, there was also a Green Eggs and Ham 2D animated series on Netflix. I saw the first season and then I didn't see the second season because I didn't hear when it was out, and I like still haven't seen the second season. But to me, it felt like they were really stretching it thin, but maybe I'm in the minority because I have friends who were like really into that show.
Well, it's like a 20-page picture book, so
Yeah, I think I told this to Kiyan last week before we watched this movie that like Cat in the Hat is like almost unadaptable because it's just a 20-page picture book for kids of just sheer chaos for 20 pages with almost no plot. So
and that's why the early 2000s adaptation was just a pure chaos movie for an hour and a half with
yeah,
barely any
in
plot.
some ways an accurate adaptation of the work, I suppose. More of an accurate adaptation of the vibe more than like the exact text, I suppose.
Right, yeah.
But I
Yeah.
suppose also why this movie, as we mentioned, decided to do a bit of a prequel kind of style thing.
Right, and not even necessarily capture the vibe with its sort of adult subject matter. Not even necessarily the adult humor thrown in the early 2000s. That's even just sort of a wink and nod to a camera. But this was kind of a I don't know beyond the pale or something.
Right. So in this movie, they do really try to do something different by showing the cat's origin. We get some allusions to how, like, oh, this is before he meets Sally and her brother from the original book. And, there's this question of, like, cat, where'd you come from? And it's like all a flashback that shows all this stuff kind of leading up to that. Um, So in this version, the cat works at this place called the Institute for the Institution of Imagination and Inspiration, LLC. What'd you guys think of this particular organization and setting type of thing?
Well, it was interesting to introduce everyone to the concept of an LLC in this movie. That 5 minute scene explaining how they set up the LLC to be legal in all countries in the universe, not even just on Earth, in the universe, across all imagination spaces, was maybe not necessary, but very informative actually. Um, but the actual vibe of the place was interesting. It was kind of weird that they established that the cat in the hat was like part of an organization. It's not something that was ever necessary to his background, implying that there are other animals, other cats in other hats, you might say.
Yeah. Also, something that was kind of out of pocket that they added to the lore of the cat here is that he was a normal cat, but then once he found this hat and started wearing it, then he started being the anthropomorphic being that we know. So what'd you guys think of that particular lore change here?
Well, it's interesting because the cat's design in this movie is very I don't know off-putting or something like that, or like I have sort of a primal fear reaction to it in some ways. Um, and seeing the transformation from a realistic cat into this 6.5 foot abomination in a hat was just like, it was just the cherry on top of that. It was just like a shiver down my spine and back up and back down. And just like, ugh, you know, but I don't know how you guys felt about
I mean, at least it wasn't Cats 2019.
it. Yeah, that too. I also get a little bit of the primal fear from that too, to be honest with you.
That was a great movie. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I mean, it's a good movie if you close your eyes. Like, I genuinely enjoyed the music, but just the overall look of it was not it.
Oh, yeah, we're getting off topic, but that movie also made one of the most genuinely interesting changes to Skimbleshanks the Railway Cat that any production of Cats has ever done. But we don't have to talk about that here.
No, yeah, everyone knows what you're talking about, so there's no use in
Yeah,
going into
exactly.
that too
Actually,
much.
everybody actually knows everything in my brain at all times, so there's actually no reason for me to be on this podcast at all. But I just decided to grace your presence.
Well, speaking of presents, which often come in the form of boxes, the cat finds this huge box, or crate rather, and it's like another one of these mythology gag things where it's like, oh, we know you've read the original storybook where he says to not open the crate, and he like is trying to open it and look at the boxes within it despite being told not to, and then he gets to the smallest box. And when he opens it, and the trailer really hyped this up, but when he opens that smallest box, it's actually just a litter box. So very low-hanging fruit, some of the humor in this one, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you say low-hanging fruit. I assume you're making a pun there because of the amount of guavas that appear in this movie. I mean, it feels like product. Can you have product placement for a fruit? It feels like product placement by Big Guava. In every
Yeah.
scene, they're like, "I just need a snack." Oh, how about a nice juicy guava? They almost break the fourth wall. I turn to the camera. How about a nice juicy guava?
Yeah, I get the feeling we're going to be seeing the guava industry blowing up in the next couple of years. Just remember I said that. Keep it in
Just
mind.
remember you said, "All right."
Yeah.
Keon's calling his shot.
Yeah, there are even those moments where you'll occasionally see someone eating a guava flavored protein bar, and it's like, even though there are some differences from the live action film, this still kind of carries over a little bit of that vibe of like product placement. Like the live action one mentioned Universal Studios, and this is kind of a different thing, but
Right. With
yeah.
a literal turn to the camera, pause, turn to the camera, which may have actually been like a Wayne's World reference now that I think about it, like, in my age, but anyway.
Oh yeah, because Mike Myers played Wayne's World. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
played Wayne's
yeah.
World from
Right,
Wayne's World.
exactly. The titular Wayne's World.
Yeah.
It's interesting though because guavas, like in their appearance, they feel Seuss-esque. You know, they're just their bright, loud colors, right? The green exterior
Right.
and
The
the
green
pink
exterior.
interior.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah,
You can get white. I mean, you can get white guavas. Well, they're green outside but white inside.
yeah.
It's kind of like, it's a little fun little game. You cut your guava open. What kind of guava am I going to get? I've
Mhm.
said guava so many times, it doesn't sound like a word anymore.
I don't know if I've ever seen a white one though. I've only had a guava maybe once or twice, but I think I only ever had the pink ones. I don't know if they're different or if it's like either or.
Yes, it's a Thai guava versus I don't know what the other one is. Is it Thai guava? I don't know. I feel like I remember that reading that once.
Hmm.
My brain is just a repository of thousands of completely useless facts with no attribution.
Right? With zero context or memory of where you accrued the knowledge. Yeah.
Well, we see a bit of the cat's everyday life. He's going to his job, he's doing his work, but also being really bad at it, like letting giraffes loose and filling a house with popcorn. I guess he's like supposed to go to these places and try changing people's lives or something.
Yeah, as we learn, either for the worse or better, doesn't really matter to his bottom line.
Right, right, right. His job is just make it different.
Right.
Very simple.
And maybe that was the assignment for this adaptation, was make it different.
Right. Getting a little bit meta there. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Make it different, make it better.
Or yeah, right, maybe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, any change you make to someone's life almost certainly will make somebody's life worse, but will make somebody's better.
Right. I
So
guess just
just
domino
think
chain.
about it.
Wait, so someone's life worse for me having met you guys?
Maybe.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't know.
but there are probably some listeners of your podcast who are like, "Oh God, not these two jokers as guests again,"
Mhm.
thus tangibly making someone's life worse because you knew us or know us. I shouldn't say that in the past tense.
Right, because presumably we're all still around when this gets released, but who knows?
Yeah, look, given the sheer unpredictability of life, which I think the theme of this movie at the end of the day was like life is unpredictable. So like you should seize the moment when it comes. Um, so I really took that to heart because life is very unpredictable these days.
Yeah, and the movie really hammers that home when the cat is, just enjoying eating his snacks and sweets, but then gets a toothache and has to like go see the dentist for this procedure. And this dentist office has like these very Seuss-esque devices, so it's not like a normal dentist office. But yeah, this whole scene here is like the cat realizing nothing is forever. This tooth is gonna come out. I need to change for the better.
It's almost sort of it's interesting. It's almost sort of a I wouldn't say mid-career crisis, but definitely a career crisis for the cat. And it's interesting that like his adventures that everyone knows and loves, from the book and its sequel, are recontextualized in a pretty big way by this. You know, no longer does he toe the line between chaos and harmony or something like that. He just he starts going all out, and this causes problems.
I meant to ask this earlier, but what do you guys think of Bill Hader's voice work as the cat in this version?
I think I would describe myself as a hater of it.
Wow.
That's pretty harsh. Um, I mean, I think it was fine, but it's times like these that remind me like a lot of animated movies are made for kids, but then they cast all these super famous actors. And there's that sketch, and I'm not remembering who did it now, but it's a sketch where they like interview these kids after watching a movie, and they're like, "So, like, what did you think about did you like Tom Hanks as Woody?" And they're like, "Who's Tom Hanks?" Right? Like
Right, yeah,
they cast all these celebrities, but the kids they don't care. They just
right.
wanted it just want they just want it to be good, right? They cast the celebrities for the adults, and often they cast celebrities who maybe should stick to regular acting and not doing voice acting. And I'm not throwing any shade or pointing any fingers, Bill Hader, but
Oh, I thought you were alluding to Chris Pratt, but okay.
well, there's
Sure.
that too. That I mean, you mean in the Super Mario movie? Is that what we're referring
Yeah,
to?
and Garfield.
Oh yeah, I never saw Garfield, but I have seen the trailer for the next Super Mario movie, and just how do you let Chris Pratt get away with going, "Let's go"? Mario's signature catchphrase delivered exactly like that, by the way. I'm not making a joke there. Okay, rant over.
Right. And so he gets his next assignment, which is to go to this family. It's a couple siblings. There's Gabby, who is the older sister, and there's Sebastian, who's the younger brother. And they also have a fish, voiced by Matt Berry, of all people. So there we go again with like some sort of comedian that the adults might know voicing one of these characters.
Matt Berry is a name I didn't expect to see attached to this movie, I'm going to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Matt Berry, and I actually think he is a pretty good voice actor. It just surprised me.
And looking at
Yeah.
his filmography here, he's been in a pretty large number of voiceover roles, so he's not new to the art of it, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I guess I just wasn't expecting a British sounding fish this time around, but I guess you gotta differentiate it from the fish we're used to in some way. I don't know.
Exactly. Make it different. Doesn't matter if it's better or worse. Make it
Make it different.
Also, kind of funny that for the 3D animated Grinch movie, they didn't let Benedict Cumberbatch just use his normal voice. They just told him sound American, and it's like I don't know that he
They
needed
made
to
him
do
put an
that.
American accent on for that movie. Dang.
Yeah. I mean,
Times like
it's
these remind me of like Death of Stalin. I don't know if you've seen Death of Stalin, but that movie's kind of hilarious because everybody is playing a Russian person and they're just all speaking in their native accents. So you have like 10 different accents in the same movie.
yeah, I've never seen that, but yeah, it's like also with Doctor Strange, they had Cumberbatch do an American accent, even though they could have just had him be British. Like Professor Xavier, I don't know if he was ever specified to be British before Patrick Stewart played him in a movie, and then that just became the thing. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, while we're talking about accents, let's stop ignoring the elephant in the room. Kiana and I have
Yeah, the
alluded to the
Horton
voice
in the
actor,
room.
the Horton in the room. We've alluded to the voice acting not being great, so let's just come out and say it. Why did they have Bill Hader doing a French accent in this movie? I mean, why, what character decision was going on there?
Yeah, this sort of brought me back to memories of those cringe moments in the Steve Martin Pink Panther movie, if I'm being honest.
Dang, I forgot that movie existed.
Yeah, same. Definitely.
There's two of them, I think, actually, right?
Yeah, yeah, there are.
This th I'm unlocking a lot of memories here. Keep going with this. A lot of these childhood memories are coming back, whether I want them to or not.
No,
We're
yeah,
hitting Kiyan with the memory grenades.
no, yeah, those crates that get unlocked in this movie, those are the memories that are getting
Oh,
unlocked.
right,
Right.
true.
We learned that this was I don't know how I feel about this or even how I want to feel about it, but we learned that the cat's compatriots are amalgamations of memories of prior cases he has worked.
Aces.
Which right, yeah, exactly. Well, they I think they use that term at least once or twice. Um, but
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
we find out that this is why they're just called things. What else would you call them? They're just amalgamations. This is probably also why they're so chaos inducing.
Yeah, and they don't have just thing one and thing two in this movie. They have like at least 18 of them. Um, and
Pretty sad what happened to 3 through 18, as we find out later.
True.
no,
Again, as
yeah,
we
that
said,
was
this is a
pretty
bit of a
wild.
prequel, so
Yeah,
we
they
all we
have
all
to
know
explain what happened to them.
we all know they gotta go. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right when they show up, you just know there's not, they don't have a good ending in this movie. We know they're gone by the time of the later, chronology of the series. So,
Yeah. What's funny is The Cat in the Hat was almost gonna be an Illumination movie. Like development was happening after the Lorax came out, but then it didn't amount to anything. So this ended up with Warner Brothers animation, and the things in this movie, they feel very much like an answer to the Minions, ironically enough. Like I really feel that influence on this movie's version of the various things.
yeah,
What'd you guys think?
I can see that. Shocking that paragons of absolute cinema illumination would pass on such a fantastic product here. But um Illumination though never killed off all of their minions. The min
Unfortunately.
unfortunately, yeah. Steven knows what I'm talking about.
I really set you guys up for that. Hey, you guys know that a third Minion movie is coming out? Anyway,
Yeah.
um, did you know that the okay, we're getting off. The original three Minions are not the leads of the new Minion movie. I mean, how can you even? I mean, what is that?
Right,
Anyway,
boycott.
boycott. Um, where was I going with all this? Oh, Illumination didn't have the balls to kill the minions off, and at least Warner Brothers did with the things.
Yeah.
But
All right.
yeah, to answer your question, Stephen, I definitely feel that the things here were sort of a response to the Minions. Only I should add, only 15 years later, and like
Maybe it's Warner Brothers saying they really freaking hate the Minions, and that's why they're killing off a bunch of these things in this movie.
Do
yeah,
you
just
blame
sort of
them?
really read it in the meta way. Yeah.
This is something that also came to mind. When you guys think of Warner Brothers animation, like what movies come to mind?
I
For
don't
me,
think
it's
I
not
can.
movies. For me, it's like Batman and animated series, Superman, those ones, that type of thing. The sort of those sort of the 90s or early 2000s cartoons, Batman Beyond.
I was gonna
I think
say I don't think
Brighton.
I could name a single movie that they did, right? I would have gone down the same path as Kiyan with the
Yeah,
Batman animated show and the Superman show, the Justice
No,
League.
yeah, Justice League 2, definitely.
yeah, for the most part, their animated movies are DC and Scooby-Doo. There are a few Mortal Kombat ones, and yeah, very few 3D animated ones. There's a forgettable one called Storks or Migration or Wheels, one of those. Smallfoot I thought was pretty good. Um, of course, going back to 2D, Iron Giant is just really great. But yeah, they're not widely known for 3D animated stuff. And this animation style feels like it kind of feels like it blends a bit of that Klaus type of style in certain scenes, but is also like still a familiar 3D animated style. What'd you guys think of the animation overall?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about with the two different visual styles, and it was a very sort of stark contrast as well when you're watching the movie because the stylistic change kicks in right when things 3 through 18 are get brutally murdered.
Yeah.
Um, changing the cat's worldview for good, visually represented to us, the audience, through this
Right.
stylistic change.
The use of the animation style to really drive home the like trauma that induces on the cat, really trying to drive home why the cat is as zany as he is now, and it's because he lost things 3 through 8 in that horrible accident we haven't gotten to accident.
Oh yeah, in
Bit
the
of a
horrible
slip there.
accent.
Um, but I at the same time, I've always felt like a lot of these studios that have started mixing animation styles have been, to use a phrase I've seen used a lot recently, just reheating Sony's nachos. Sony like really uh
Is that a phrase
changed the
now?
game. Yeah, yeah,
Reheating Sony's nachos, or is not
reheating,
Sony in
not
particular?
Sony in particular.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Um, because Sony really, changed the game with the Spider-Verse movies, and now it's like every animation studio ever wants to do their version of mixing animation styles, and some of them just don't execute it as well. I think this is on the better side of those imitations, but it's never going to be as good as the original.
Yeah, I mean, it really makes you wonder which would have been the better path, imitation or illumination.
Wow.
Yep. It is kind of like, I didn't necessarily look into why this was the case, although I did kind of skim Wikipedia and this type of thing. But like it is like it is an eyebrow raiser that this isn't an illumination production.
Right. And another kind of surprise is that we're so used to things one and two, I guess, kind of sounding like they're speaking gibberish. But in this movie, each of the 18 things have their own distinct voices. They got like a bunch of different well-known actors for each of them. And by the end of this whole thing, like the deaths of most of them is what causes things one and two sanities to slip, and that's why they kind of speak gibberish.
Right. So we get their sort of origin story there, but frankly, I have to question the decision to, yes, yes, they made all the voices distinct, yet they were all different varieties of French accent. I mean, come on.
Right. I mean, look, I'm just impressed that Kiyan can actually differentiate between the French accent of rural Paris and the French accent of the Marseille seaside. Not many people have that talent, so I think that should be applauded.
Thank you.
If we're going to applaud anything about the accents, it should be that.
Sure. Sure. All right.
But what's fascinating too is not a, they got all of these famous voice cameos for all the things. And in some ways you can tell who's actually doing like a pretty good, who can do a pretty good French accent versus who cannot. You know, Patrick Stewart, he does great French accent. Um, Keanu Reeves, you know, there's some work to be done there.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about the accident that causes their deaths?
Yeah, we've been dancing around it for a while, so maybe it's about time we address the Horton in the room. So actually, it's a cacophony of multiple accidents. We accidents. Damn it! It's a cacophony of multiple accidents. We've
A
been
cat
kind of
cacophony, you might say.
no. Just throw myself out the window right now. Um.
Just make sure you get the corner of a window.
Oh, geez.
That was from
So
before the show, I think, talking about
yeah.
browser windows. But anyway, go on.
Um. I've utterly lost my train of. Oh, right. It's a cacophony of accidents. And it begins with the Horton in the room. Thing three gets crushed by Horton the elephant. I mean, just devastating. All of this, by the way, set to Paparazzi by Lady Gaga. Just a fascinating musical choice for this montage of death.
Right. Yeah, but frankly, in the cat tradition, because the '03 version had some questionable like scenes set to a licensed song as well.
Yeah, I also think that the use of paparazzi was maybe trying to tell us that we are the audience, are the onlookers who willingly witness fictional deaths in order to satisfy a certain um form of like I don't know story consumption, and so it kind of felt like this was pointing fingers at us, the audience, which I don't really know how I feel about when movies do that.
Yeah, it definitely sort of, lances that finger, breaks the fourth wall in that way, perhaps you might say. Definitely feels very voyeuristic, um, especially with the, like, insane amount of violence you have here. I mean, this is like, it's animated obviously, but this is like Happy Tree Friends level of just gore.
Yeah, they had to change the color of the thing's blood so that it's not like normal human red, but we all know
Right,
it's blood.
right,
I was just telling Keon about how like the new Predator movie is like insanely R-rated violent, but because all
Oh
the
yeah.
Predator blood is green, it gets a PG-13 rating, and then
Yeah.
this movie does the same thing where the Thing blood is all bright yellow, and it's like so over the top. You're kind of distracted by the insane colors. There's confetti going off. There's paparazzi blaring full. It's like sensory overload in a way that you don't notice the sheer amount of death and destruction on screen at the moment.
and this is all used to introduce the Dr. Seuss shared universe that is
Yeah,
being.
the Suessiverse.
The Suessiverse.
This is how it is all. This is its nascency. This is where it's all coming into being in this sort of crazy fashion.
Because of this accident, Horton is traumatized as well for taking these lives and has to go see a psychiatrist. And the cat and things one and two are really trying to cling to this mission of trying to help out Gabby and Sebastian with their life because with
Yeah,
what
lest we
they
forget that there are kids in this movie.
yeah. Yeah, they're like we saw some real messed up stuff. Like if we don't help out the kids, then we're not gonna feel so great about ourselves.
Yeah, least they could do, least they could do.
Yeah, so we do get some of the familiar antics, like making a mess in the house and having to clean it up. There is that pepper spray moment where they spray the cat's face when they meet him. So I guess that's to be expected. But another really weird lore change here, or reveal, I guess, is that this magical hat that the cat wears used to be the hat of the two kids in the original book's dad, whom we don't really know about. So in this movie, they talk about how that dad died and his hat fell by the wayside, and this cat picked it up, and now he kind of has the similar memories and vibes as that dad character.
Right. They do introduce a bit of, I don't know, almost, I don't know if I'd call it psychological horror, but, uh, it feels almost as if the, paranormal presence of the, well, lingering presence of the, this souled father character is, becoming one with the cat as the movie goes on. And this really comes to a head in this post-thing death sequence, um, where the cat is trying to deal with the depression of his, charges. And he's not doing so well himself. You know, perhaps he's the one who should be I don't know uh reflecting or being cheered up by someone else. But the Horton also in therapy. We don't really have too many other characters to do that here, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, and they talk about cats having 9 lives, so it's like when Cat dies, he can still go on living, but he also remembers the death and he also has this human life like in his memories. So there's a lot of push and pull psychologically, and something like that can really weigh heavily on a person, and they really hammer that home with like the crazy multicolored psychedelic visuals in this movie.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, just expanding on that comment Kiyan made about the psychological horror, like also just the like insane what's the word I want to use here? Like fantasy elements they're just introducing right at the end here. They're like just going hard into the fantastical with the reliving the lives, like you said, Stephen, almost Stephen King-esque um, in its execution.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
It definitely felt like they were loading a lot toward the end of the movie.
I like that though. I like the sort of the slow start picks up speed as it goes along cadence. Personally,
Mhm.
I think it works for a a movie based on a 20-page picture book that you don't really have that easy way to
It,
adapt it.
it's
So
it's hard to get a 2.5 hour movie out of a 20-page book.
right,
And I think they mostly succeeded here. You know, we've talked a lot of smack about the movie so far, but there's some pretty good stuff in here. I liked the scene with the dog walker. That was pretty good. Just kind of randomly in the middle of the scene, breaking up the tension. A little MCU-esque humor.
yeah, right, yeah, exactly. Can never take anything too seriously. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like you keep needing to be reminded that this is a kid's movie.
yeah. Well, you really need that here. Definitely, like yeah. So
He ends up like helping the kids learn something, I guess. It doesn't really
Yeah,
feel like he did all that much, to be honest.
they learned something or the other at the end. By this point, it's so thematically muddled that I didn't really know what the lesson was. Um,
Told you
but
the lesson was that life is chaos and you got to seize the moment.
right,
Life the cat seizing the hat.
I was about to get to that. I was about to get to
Oh,
the,
sorry for
frankly,
seizing my moment
yeah,
then.
yeah, exactly. Um, I actually thought it was pretty Kino how, at the end of all of this, the cat does, again, like the old one, just turn to the camera and uh, just just emphatically and straightforwardly state the themes of the movie, which is, as Dylan said, you gotta seize the day.
That
Yeah.
that is if you can reorient yourself back into society after watching this movie, after the chaos of the last 2.5 hours, it might be
Yeah,
a little tough.
they need to start running some, I don't know, rehab programs for people who've seen this or something like that.
I thought you were gonna say they need to start some rehab programs for people who were cats and then became anthropomorphic and then went, I don't know.
That too, if this movie is any indication. Not an
Yeah.
easy life. Not an easy life.
Right. Yeah, I forgot to mention there was that sequence where his hat falls off and like it sort of gets blown away through the city, and so because he's turned into a normal cat, the kids have to go through the city and look for the hat, and it's a whole thing. Um, yeah, that was quite the adventure, I must admit. Quite a different way of doing the story.
Yeah, definitely taking the cat out of and this is something that all the adaptations have done, the previous one, the live action one, taking the cat out of the home. The original book is set in just a house on a rainy day. If I remember correctly. I don't think they leave it, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, again,
taking the
not
hat out of the cat, you might say,
yeah. You can take the cat out of the hat, but
but
you
you can't
can't take
take the
the
hat out of the cat.
right.
Right.
Cat's out of the bag.
That was the tagline for this, or I think it was the cat. Was it?
Yeah,
Hang on
it
here.
was the tagline on the poster or something.
Right, yeah, the cat's out of the bag. Yeah, he's not out of the hat. He's just out of the bag. He's in the hat in the movie.
Well, in either case, his boss, Mr. Hoojboom, who's voiced by Giancarlo Esposito, or Giancarlo Esposito, as some might say, um,
What?
that thinks that the cat has done a decent enough job and then gives him the next assignment, which is pretty much just the kids we know from the original book, and then it goes to credits.
You definitely, at least I did, as the credits started rolling, get like a bit of a Star Wars prequel vibe from this, because because of how there's just this the sheer production value of this, the sheer over the top insanity of it, and then he goes on to a less crazy assignment, one that is significantly thematically and simpler like plot wise and stuff like this. Um, yeah, you kind of feel that. At least I did.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Um, Also, this is kind of related, but I just remembered when I first started watching like the ninth Doctor era of Doctor Who, I remember thinking this kind of has vibes similar to the 2003 Cat in the Hat movie.
Really.
I'm sure Russell T would love to hear that.
I mean, let him hear it. I don't care.
Mhm.
But yeah, we get the end credits, which includes the very Dr. Seuss style illustrations, the song 21, the 21 Pilots song Drag Path is playing. And then we get this post-credit scene where it's the Grinch looking in a mirror and his reflection talks to himself, talks about how he has to like out Grinch the Cat in the Hat, and very much an homage to that uh 2D animated crossover TV special or whatever between them. Only here the Grinch is stable enough, like he's gone through therapy and stuff and gone over his anxiety that he's like, no, and just like walks away from his reflection. And I imagine that Warner Brothers had to pay Illumination for just this one scene. So I think that this is basically them saying, yeah, we're not doing Cat in the Hat crossing over with the Grinch, deal with it. We're doing our own Suessiverse type thing.
Yeah, they have their own version of the Grinch, like the two versions of Batman. Um, we've got two versions of the Grinch because the audience isn't going to get confused. They're children.
Right. Well, they for sure said that there's gonna be the Thing 1 and Thing 2 movie, which releases this year for us and here in the delayed replay universe. I think that comes out November because they want to avoid competition with Pixar's Hoppers. And then next year is Oh, the Places You'll Go. So they've got something going, they're cooking, whether
They're
that's for
cooking. Let
better
them
or
cook.
worse.
Hold on, let them cook.
All right, was there anything else you guys want to mention about this movie before we go into final thoughts?
It was
No,
absolute cinema.
yeah, there's Kino.
Yeah, it was Kino.
All right, so what are your final thoughts, score out of 10, and do you know of measurement for that score for the Warner Brothers animation, the Cat in the Hat movie?
Do you want to, you want to go? You want to go? I'll go. I'll go. No one said anything, so
Who
I'll
are you
go.
talking to?
You didn't respond in time, so I'll go. Um, yeah, it's interesting how ridiculously violent this movie was. Um, again, I have to use Happy Tree Friends as a touch point here. Happy Tree Friends was coming out when we were children. I was aware of it as a child, and as disgusted as I was as a child by certain episodes, by other episodes I was delighted. Just the extreme violence, the extreme cartoon violence or whatever. Um, but like there was like a delight and a humor to that, because the situations were themselves clever and funny, um, and the violence was just like I don't know, um, just it was just like it was just like whipped cream or something like that. Like it was just on the top or something. Like like that. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but there's one that I always remember where the blue moose guy has to like chop off his leg or something. Like what's that? I don't. It's a reference to some movie that I'm blanking on the name of, but he has to chop it off, but he has to do it with a spoon, and he just chops through the wrong leg. You see at the end, and that's the punchline. But yeah. So getting kind of off track, but to bring it back,
I was gonna say I
um,
completely lost where you were going with all of this.
my point in bringing that up was to say that, in the 2000s, we had stuff like Happy Tree Friends, extreme, insane, cartoon violence, not for kids. We finally reached the point where the insane cartoon violence is now being sold to children, and it's not a joke anymore. It's, it's serious, self-serious even,
Mhm.
in many ways. And, I don't know. I find that kind of dark. Uh, for society or something like that. We've become so desensitized uh, to the horrors of, I don't know, life or something that you just get a Dr. Seuss movie that depicts uh, atrocities such as those depicted in this movie. And for that, I'm going to have to give it 0 cats out of 10 hats.
All
I was
right.
just say, I mean, that's just, indicative of like American culture, right?
Yep.
You show one boob R rating, right? You show dozens of people get killed.
Yeah, yeah,
PG-13.
right, yeah, yeah. Finding any excuse to just bump that down to the sweet PG-13, yeah.
Look, everyone knows that violence of any kind is much worse than nudity. It's just an
Right,
objective fact.
right. In a person's regular life, a completely average median life, obviously a personal encounter, violence, death, destruction, brutal murder, 100 times more than seeing a naked woman. So we've just
Yeah.
got to protect the audience. Anyway, for my rating, I love chaotic movies to an extent. The visuals were pretty nice. The music was good. The voice acting was eh across the board. Um, would I watch this movie again? Probably not. It extracted a heavy toll to my sanity mostly. I would give it 6 stripes out of 8.
Okay.
Wait, you thought I was going to say 10 stripes?
I think
Huh?
Or
we were
yeah,
supposed to rate it out of 10, so
No, we
yeah,
can we
but
can make up
doing
our
the
own
math,
scale here.
I mean, doing the math, that's like 75% or whatever. So I get it. Yeah. I can
Your
math.
rules can't hold me. I'm like the cat in the hat. Rules don't apply to me, man. I'm not a part of your system.
Man, that sounds like a song.
I think it is. I think it's a Lonely Island song from a Lonely Island song. Yeah, it is. It's from Threw It on the Ground by the Lonely Island. I was gonna say I think it's from Threw It on the Ground, but I didn't want to be confidently incorrect. But I've just Googled it, and it is from Threw It on the Ground by the Lonely Island.
Okay. All
A
right.
great song if you've never listened to it. Link it in the show notes, Steven.
All right. Yeah, I was gonna say you've saved me trouble of researching it for the show notes, but I guess I'll add the link anyway. But yeah, as for me, I do think I enjoy this more than the live action film, even though this is still chaotic in its own way. I wouldn't say it's the best way to go about adapting the story, but it's an entertaining film nonetheless in some ways. It truly is a spectacle to behold. So for that reason, I think I would give it 7 out of 10 Cat in the Hat popsicles.
that's another memory. Just kind of a side note. That's another memory that was unlocked in this. Those like cartoon character shaped popsicles. I distinctly remember those, and I remember their texture and their taste and everything about them. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that's nuts. I haven't thought of those things in
Yeah, you get
probably
like
over a decade. Yeah,
the lemon lime flavored Ninja Turtles,
yeah, yeah,
get Spider-Man's mask on a stick.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember the sponge. I don't think I ever had one of these popsicles. But I saw them, and the one that sticks in my mind is the SpongeBob one, which like
Yeah.
horrifically almost never actually looked like SpongeBob that much.
Right, yeah, it did on the
Yeah.
box, and you open it up, and it's just some mutated abomination.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of funny when some ice cream trucks like I guess don't have the rights or whatever, so they try to make something that looks vaguely similar and it's
Mhm.
just hilarious. But yeah, I guess that'll do it for this discussion. Thanks for joining me again, guys. Was there anything either of you wanted to plug or even recommend people check out?
Um, for me, no. But well, plug no, but recommend that you check out. Perhaps it bears saying again. Dylan and I used to podcast together. Um,
And
but
we're podcasting again right now, and we may
yeah,
podcast
Yeah.
together
right,
yet again in the future.
right.
It is
Um,
inevitable.
yeah. Do you actually want to plug that, Dylan? Um, do you actually
Inevitable?
want? Yeah, yeah.
Well, people
And
should
just
go
trust
watch
your doctor.
Inevitable and
Yeah,
trust your doctor. Oh,
yeah.
not
And Zach,
watch, listen to.
listen. Yeah,
Uh,
and
I
Zach,
think we were pretty proud of our work before Kiyan
new
pulled
kid.
a little
Yeah,
coup de grace.
yeah.
Uh,
Just pull the plug.
so go. I mean, yeah, all those episodes are still up. I actually just, today's March. 1st that we're recording this. I just got the email that Libsyn successfully charged my account for I continue to pay for hosting for those podcasts. So, would be nice if people went and listened to them still.
Hmm. My podcast app on my phone is like glitched, and half the time it'll show the actual uh art for the podcast I'm listening to, but like half the time it just shows a low res version of the Zenith logo. It, yeah, yep,
That
not
might be
even kidding.
telling you something.
I know, yeah, I feel like it might be some sort of sign.
I
Sign of
think
what I have no clue, but some sort of sign.
something. Yeah, I think that's the only thing we have worth plugging at the moment. Kiyan and I, we got things in the pipe on an infinitely long time scale, so
Yeah,
don't hold your
yeah,
breath,
yeah,
right?
all right. Yeah,
Don't
don't
yeah,
expect much.
don't hold your breath. But oh yeah, and you can check out those podcasts at decorativevegetable.com. Website's still up, baby.
Hmm. Check out the blog we did on there for like 6 months. That thing was actually pretty good.
Yeah, have you gone back and revisited it recently? Like, oh, actually, we were spitting some fire here. We're spitting some heat.
Hmm. Yeah, not necessarily recently. Maybe a couple months ago, I checked out a few things we wrote there, and I was like, oh, we actually put some effort into this, especially your prisoner video game breakdowns.
True. Which
Yeah,
I
Some of the
think, which
best.
I think if you search for the prisoner video game, still like comes up.
Yeah, it's some of the best and only information about that game like online. So,
yeah, you guys were saying all the things that people were too afraid to say via that blog.
mhm,
Right.
agreed, unironically.
It also has the only published that I know of fictional work by either Kiyan or myself, which is Kiyan's fan fiction, Lava Pirates.
Oh yeah, that no, that's not my only published fictional work. But I'm not going to go into that. So,
Okay.
yeah,
You could have just said nothing and pretended that I was right. Trying
no,
to
but I
trying to protect your
anonymity.
innocence.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to protect my anonymity, but also like pat myself on the back at the same time. So, no denial of that whatsoever.
All right, all right. That's also I just realized I have something that's I've written that is also available online. So
Mhm.
yeah, I guess that statement was just entirely false. Yeah, I guess I'm just lying to your audience,
Yep.
Stephen. I almost said your last name. I always just called you Shinder for some reason.
No, yeah, over the years, I have known people who refer to me as Shinder instead of by my first name, actually. Especially in high school, it was kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that experience too in high school, and only high school people would call me by my last name. So,
It's probably, I mean, I didn't call you by your last name, but we had a mutual friend who I called by their last name. But that was because his first name was Ryan, and there were like four Ryans in our class. So it was like we had to figure out some way to differentiate all of them. Which
Too common of a name. Yeah.
there's only so many ways you can spell Ryan, but we also had like I think we had three Keons, one of whom was our Keon here on the call, and all three of
yeah,
them were
the real
spelled
one.
differently. The real Keon, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
that was a very long way to say decorativevegetable.com. Go check out our podcasts from back in the day. We put a lot of effort into them and they will stand
Well,
the test of
you
time.
did. Just kidding.
I love
I
that
just,
we started this plug with you saying we put a lot of effort into it, and we ended it with me saying we put a lot of effort into and you being like, actually, JK, I didn't put any effort into that.
yeah. Well, the the more you know.
Anyway, thank you for having us on, Stephen. It was a lot of fun, and it's nice to be podcasting again every so often. It's nice to pop back into the world for a little while.
Hmm. Yep. Thanks a lot for having us back on, Stephen. Especially after what happened last time, after recording. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh
Nothing
yeah,
untoward happened.
I was like, what's he referring to? I don't remember. But all right, yeah, always great to have you guys on. And especially for this particular Suessiverse discussion. And yeah, we'll see how that all goes. And I'll link decorativevegetable.com in the show notes as well, if that wasn't already obvious. But thanks for tuning in, everyone. And the release schedule will be kind of different for a little while. Like there will be three-week gaps between episodes. Basically just as a way to make it so that the anniversary episode is also the 200th episode, and then there'll be like a few consecutive weeks, and then it'll get back to like every other week. So yeah, it'll all even out. But yeah, that's it for now. Come back in 3 weeks for a different topic, and without further delay, have a good day. All right, so the next episode, which will come out in about 3 weeks from when this one comes out, will be about the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So this episode will come out. The version in that other universe will have also come out, but our recap of it will, of course, be different because it's our version. And my other self will be on here in just a moment to talk about some of the thoughts he's had about TV. We'll leave him to talk about the second season of Green Eggs and Ham over on Netflix. And I think also some thoughts on the Buffy revival and other things, and of course completed Starfleet Academy. But first, for the plugs, you can email delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on hats. Do you have any favorite hats? And you can also find me at stevenshinder.com, info on my standalones, and stepping stones novels. The first of those, Lemons Will Make Rain, came out around this time, as of when this episode is releasing, back in 2019. And the second book, Trespassing Through the Visages, has also been out for, I think, a little more than 2.5 years now. So, yeah, still working on the next books, keep ping-ponging between the other ones, but there will be more on the way. But yeah, would really appreciate any new readers and reviews and whatnot. And you can also check out me at the socials. The social media is in the show notes, of course, and you can find me on the Yes Shift podcast, a prog rock podcast I do with my dad. We recently had some big news regarding a From a Page album, Yes's 2019 album that was kind of an archival release, and it's getting an expanded edition. And you can also keep an eye out for more interviews on the way. And check out Drum Talk TV Brilliance and all the stuff going on there as well. So I think that's all that for now, and without further delay, here's my other self. Hey everyone, so in keeping with the theme of this episode, I went ahead and finally got around to watching Season 2 of Green Eggs and Ham over on Netflix. And I don't know if it's the fact that it's been several years since I first tried the show and watched the first season, or if it genuinely just got better with the second season, but I was really vibing with the second season as Sam gets to find his mom, and Guy, the guy who in the story doesn't want Green Eggs and Ham at first, he's navigating through being part of a family. And there's also a lot of spy related stuff and an arms race between two different, I guess, nations. And this was all kind of strange, but really exciting. But I looked into this, and apparently the second season was loosely based on the Dr. Seuss book, the Butter Battle book. And I also went around to watching the 2D animated adaptation of that from the 80s. It's about 20 minutes. and it's a decent watch. Dr. Seuss, I read somewhere, he said that it's probably the most accurate adaptation of his works. But I do really love Green Eggs and Ham season 2. I can't believe I slept on it for so long. Um, to be fair, it came out in 2022, and I was, a bunch of stuff going on, and still coming out of the early pandemic times, I guess. But yeah, really glad that I finally got around to watching it. Now, there are also some other Dr. Seuss adaptations over on Netflix. The Sneetches is this 3D animated 45-minute, I guess, special. And it's definitely aimed more toward kids, but it feels really dumbed down in some ways, and I just wasn't really into it. So I'm kind of also hesitant to check out these other child named ones on Netflix that are about Horton or One Fish, Two Fish. That one. I think those are a couple of the other ones. So yeah, I don't know. I also remembered that several years ago there was a Grinch stage musical special. I think it might have been available on Peacock at the time, but is now no longer available, at least last I checked. I remember that was pretty strange. I didn't enjoy it as much as other musicals. Like the one I compared it to was Shrek the Musical. Shrek the Musical is just, you know, a high above that one. It's so good. Um, I got around to rewatching the Lorax 3D animated movie for the first time in years, and maybe it's a bit less than fine and only okay, actually. I feel that whenever I try watching it, my attention ends up wandering here and there. Like, I don't feel as focused on it as I did with Horton Here's a Who, or even the 3D animated Grinch for that matter. So, yeah, maybe the handling of the Onceler is kind of a detriment to it. And it also feels like a weird movie because the Lorax is a story that's that feels very anti-industrialization, and here you have that within this very commercial movie with the pop songs and everything, and it's the musical numbers feel very, I don't know how to even describe it, very maybe too streamlined or kind of corporate in a way. So yeah, I guess I would maybe still put this above the live action Cat in the Hat ever so slightly, but definitely below either Grinch adaptation, the films anyway, and the 2D animated Grinch is probably the best one of those. And yeah, Horton Hears a Who I'd put above it. So yeah, very curious how the Cat in the Hat 3D animated movie over in my universe will end up being. I think that one comes out around or on my birthday this year, assuming it doesn't get delayed again. So yeah, kind of a mixed bag when it comes to Dr. Seuss adaptations overall. Now, I've been behind on certain TV shows. There have been a couple shows that I've talked about on here, and there's been so much going on in my life that it's hard to me to focus on TV shows. It's kind of easier to just put on a movie in the background, especially if it's one that's not new or that I don't have to pay too much attention to. But I did finish Star Trek Starfleet Academy, I should say. The first season, and I liked it. I guess the finale was decent. Again, it's hard for me to be as focused because of a bunch of stuff I'm busy with and trying to really lock in on. But I do think it does have all the elements that we enjoy about Star Trek, the lightheartedness, but also the serious moments. I feel like those are balanced pretty well. I like these characters, and if there's another season, yeah, I'll go ahead and watch it. Now, in terms of other sci fi things, something I keep hearing about is the possibility of Firefly getting a revival of sorts. There are all these rumblings that there might be an announcement coming soon. And I personally don't really need this, like, if it is a thing. When I watched Firefly years and years and years ago, I only thought it was okay. It didn't really captivate me, though apparently it's captivated people who are part of its own fan base and have been for years and been wanting it back. This aired in 2002, I think it was, so going on almost a quarter of a century. And I know Twin Peaks pulled off a return after a quarter of a century, but that doesn't mean we always have to have one of these. And I've heard that one of the actors is maybe problematic, and so people are worried about, oh, are they actually going to bring that actor back? Like, I don't know all the details myself, but I'd also worry about, would Joss Whedon still get residuals from something like this, even if he is not involved in the production? These are characters he created, and so I don't know what all the details are regarding rights and such. But another revival of a Joss Whedon created show, uh, just today, March 14th, we got news from Sarah Michelle Gellar on her, I guess this was on her Instagram. She said that the Buffy new Sunnydale revival series, or I don't know if it's called Buffy New Sunnydale or Buffy the Vampire Slayer New Sunnydale. It's one of those, but it's not moving forward at Hulu anymore. They filmed the pilot back in August, from what I could tell, but Hulu are now passing on it. No details yet about what the reasons were. Now, again, Buffy is a show. I actually enjoyed watching Buffy throughout high school and college. I thought it was mostly good. I enjoyed the characters and the arcs for the most part. And again, it's a Joss Whedon show, so for such a revival, there is that worry of, would he get residuals from this or not? I don't know. Kind of like with Hollywood Arts, that Victoria spinoff. It's like, is Dan Schneider gonna get residuals from that? And if he is it even worth it? So I know there are Buffy fans who are really looking forward to this next generation type of show, and it sounded like it could have potentially been interesting from what little we knew of it. But yeah, it looks like it's not happening. Chloe Zhao was a director on it. Out of her works, I've only seen Eternals. I don't think I've seen anything else of hers. And maybe other stuff she's done is better, but Eternals, I just really didn't vibe with it, like the tone and how the characters are not that memorable or don't really pop out all that much. And you gotta remember, Buffy the Vampire Slayer very much is what other bits of Marvel are. Some of the quippiness, although I feel like it doesn't go too overboard in a way. Um, and, unfortunately, some of that is down to Joss Whedon, but other people have managed to sort of run with some of that to varying results. Some people can do it better than others. And I kind of wonder, did this pilot have a tone that felt like Buffy, or did it feel sort of out of bounds? Like, I can't help but be curious. Maybe it did actually feel very much like Buffy, and I'm just speculating too wildly here. There's also the worry that I've seen from people here and there that maybe they didn't move forward with it, maybe because maybe they chickened out because of, these days it feels like certain companies are too afraid of being more progressive, given the current administration. And Buffy is a very, it's viewed as a very feminist franchise. Take away who was involved initially, but look at the characters and the focus and the journey, and the fans have really run with it and been inspired. It's definitely inspired very feminist fans, and I can imagine that the revival could have been even more feminist, which would have been good, but then maybe the higher ups were not having it, which I don't know if that is the case, but if so, that would be very unfortunate. And yeah, I'd kind of want the revival to still happen based on that principle, if that is the reason it got canceled. But other than that, like a Buffy revival isn't something that I personally was really looking for. I was kind of already happy with the original show, but I know there are other super fans who really would have wanted this next generation type of thing. And it does kind of reek of when Hulu Hulu and or Disney didn't move forward with the Lizzie McGuire revival, which sounded fascinating because it would have been a more mature take, Lizzie all grown up and whatnot, and what kind of issues could that have touched on. But yeah, so very mixed feelings on this. Maybe not as strong feelings about it not happening as others have, but that's also easy to say when I don't know the exact reasons that it's not moving forward. Maybe if I if the exact reasons do come out, maybe that could make me think, what, maybe they really should have let this happen, and it's really frustrating. Over at Pixar, there over the last couple years have been these reports of Disney and Pixar, or I guess I don't know who to blame exactly. There was a specific name, but basically the higher ups being too afraid of having queer elements in these animated movies. And while I enjoyed Elio when I watched it in the theater last summer, and I do think Elio's friend Glordon is a good addition to the creative overhaul. The reports that an LBGT storyline was cut from Elio is very disappointing. Elio, I guess there would have been a moment where Elio thinks about a crush or something. I don't know. But yeah, uh, it's really disappointing the way these studios and corporations and whatnot. It's a very real thing, this problem here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. People are just playing it too safe and not being as all inclusive. Something really needs to change really soon. I'm not even all that hyped to see Hoppers, honestly, in light of this Pixar stuff, and also like just the trailer of the comparisons to Avatar really put me off. Maybe there is some cool twist in the movie I just don't know about. I'll probably check it out eventually, but yeah, as far as new movies go, I am gonna see The Bride tomorrow with a couple friends, and that one has been getting mixed reception, but I'm very curious about it because people have been comparing it to um, another movie that I didn't dislike, Joker Folie à Deux, and that I'm like very curious, like how similar is it to that? I mean, it might just be surface level stuff, but I also think back to when Lisa Frankenstein came out and people were mixed on that, but I really enjoyed that movie. So I kind of wonder if this is a similar scenario and maybe it's just bombing undeservedly. And yeah, so I'll watch that. And unfortunately, since it'll be a 3 week break between episodes, it'll be a while before you hear my thoughts on it here on the podcast. But maybe if you follow me on social media, you'll get to see my thoughts. I know the YouTube channel, Steven Shinder Reviews in Video Form, has been taking a hiatus for a bit. Will this film be the one that inspires me to make a video? I don't know. Again, things have been really busy and kind of hectic on my end, and to make time to make a video, even if it is a low uh, a low effort one that doesn't require too much editing, it's a bit of an ask, but we'll see what happens, I guess. So thanks for tuning in. Keep following Delayed Replay, and without further delay, have a good day. And also, a happy belated Friday the 13th, I guess. Check out the horror movies I've been watching on Letterboxd and whatnot.